We are back!
Two-Dimensional Champions, episode 23. I had to look that up because it's been just a week since our last episode.
Just a week.
Just a week. It's amazing being on time. Yeah. Like Jupiter time.
Yeah.
Or something. Well, I guess, yeah, somewhere in the solar system they're just getting the... no, we'd still be behind because this one isn't out yet. Fuck.
And another thing, too, is it's like, this isn't even like my whole road trip thing put us behind too. So it's like, no matter how you slice it, reduce.
Yeah, and the road trip thing went okay because it was we did the season 1, season 2 thing. It was like, oh yeah, so this is. Well, did we officially do that? I know I didn't change anything.
Because I was like, it'll be fine, bro. I'll just record on the road. Said like.
Well, I think we did say though that there would probably be some time off. So at least that was, we announced a hiatus. Whereas
I think if anyone's listening to the podcast, they'll know that there's going to be some time off. It's gotten to the point that there's like a reputation here,
Yeah. Well, a bad one. Yeah, I was going to say the only thing worse than a planned hiatus is an unplanned hiatus. Yeah. So that was an unplanned one. So I guess Happy New Year to
right and Christmas.
Anybody who came back to listen to the show after we disappeared.
No, we did. Our new resolution was not to quit the podcast, as some of you might have thought it would.
Well, yeah, we definitely tried not to do that. That was we didn't quite make it the first week of January, but.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't even quite make it within the first 10 days either.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
But, well, I guess that's just how it's going to roll, though. And today we're going to be talking about Young Blackjack, which is a show we've tried very hard to get excited about talking about.
We tried recording it, and it, didn't work. Like, our internet died or something like that.
So. Oh, that's right. We did get, 15 minutes into recording an episode, didn't we?
Yeah, and then, the internet died.
So technically, we could just say it was just technical difficulties, right?
Right, well, it's technical difficulties, then holidays, then I got sick, then you got sick, and then now here we are.
Yeah.
A month and a half later, or whatever.
But before we talk about Young Blackjack, I do have some great news. Apparently, the manatee population has rebounded 500%, and the species is no longer endangered.
Oh my goodness! Now I can get my manatee first. I've always wanted.
Oh yeah. So apparently, they've made a huge comeback as a result of significant improvements in habitat conditions and threat reduction. Yep. So that's your good news today.
Yeah, I love fucking manatees.
Yeah. So now there's about 13,000 manatees overall, which is up from 1,267 manatees in 1991 when surveys first began.
Cool. All right.
Nice, huh?
Yeah, perfect.
And also David Bowie died, so not good news, but
Did you just call him Bowie?
Bowie? Is it Bowie?
It's Bowie.
Oh, fuck everything, God.
Dude, all right, yeah. Say his name. How do you not? Oh my God. That's awesome.
I thought it was like a bow,
Yeah.
Like on wrapping paper?
Yeah. Like a bowie. Not like a bow, like a ship's bow? Is that what you're sort of trying to say that you thought it was? Because you just said Bowie, and then you're like, I thought it was like a bow. And it's like, it is.
Oh, it is Bowie.
It is Bowie.
What was I saying?
Bowie. All right, so we're in there.
Yeah. So we're this. Yeah. Well, okay. It's definitely a Monday.
You can tell how happening we are. But what was it? I saw one thing on whatever the Facebooks that said, like, if you're sad today, just remember the world is over 4 billion years old and you somehow managed to exist in the same time as David Bowie. Which I thought was like, that's a good way of looking at it. Like, there's some people that are just like, I spent the whole day crying. Some people like really like him. I think, like, it's a cool guy, good music, all that jazz. But I'm not spending my whole day crying about it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I liked his stuff. I just wasn't like a huge fan. You know what I mean? I mean, I obviously respect what he did and all that.
Right.
But,
he accomplished great things.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I was surprised because he just came out with a new CD.
I didn't even know that. I just thought he was. Yeah. I thought he was already dead. So like.
So that ship had already sailed.
Right. I was just like I feel like all like sort of older people that I listened to when I was little are just dead now. Like that's just sort of like my. It's like okay. That's just what's going on. But anyway, that's I guess what are we doing? Pop culture now or pop news or whatever?
Yeah. Well, we started with animal news, and I guess we just went into...
just like seeing it.
Bowie?
Yes, you got it.
Really, right?
You did it, team. We did it, team. The best.
Excellent. I feel good about that. So we've got Young Blackjack today. So we watched the first 5 episodes. I actually watched like 7.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I watched a little more, but I don't know why, really. I don't really have a reason for that. But... I'm actually disappointed with this show because I was looking forward to watching it. I mean, I had never read the manga, but I'm a fan of the original manga. I love, of course, Young Blackjack is based off of Blackjack, which is by Osamu Tezuka. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And it's his third most famous comic after Astro Boy and Kimba the White Lion, and it's just a really... I mean, I really love that series. The animes have been kind of 50-50. Some of them I've liked better than others. But Young Blackjack looked interesting. I like the art style. I was looking forward to it being animated because I like the idea of it, too. I like the idea of seeing him and, when he was studying in med school or something like that.
Do you like the Young Blackjack or like the Blackjack art style? Because they're very different. The art style
I actually like
and the old art style.
Yeah, I actually like both. I like the old art style a lot, but I actually think the way it was adapted into a modern art style was interesting.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I like both, and I just didn't know anything about the manga. But I like the idea of it. You know what I mean? I like the idea of him in med school. And the most disappointing thing to me about this series is he's never in med school.
Well, no. He's outside of the med school.
Well, I don't know how he's getting any grades because he's obviously missed a lot of classes. He's never there for tests, and he's always doing unlicensed surgeries.
It's because he's so busy doing unlicensed surgeries that are going to make him lose his license that he can't be in school to get his license.
Yeah, which is
plot development.
Catch-22, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's But the series was animated at Tezuka Productions. Yes, and the director was Mitsuko Kase, who has worked in a lot of things. She's done storyboards for Inuyasha. She did storyboards for Last Exile. Was an episode director on City Hunter and City Hunter 2, and actually Dirty Pair. So she's been working in the industry a long time. And her last series that I remember watching, that she was the director of, was I had it up. For a second. Yeah, Restaurante Paradiso, which is based on the Natsume Ono manga of the same name, and which is basically just about a girl who goes to a restaurant in Italy full of good-looking older men, and that's the entire series.
Sounds like the best.
Yeah, but it's actually a fun series. Do you remember House of Five Leaves?
No.
Did you ever watch that? Okay, yeah, that was another Natsume Ono manga that was adapted by Monglobe that did Samurai Champloo. So she, anyway, that's a different thing. But so the director did Young Blackjack, and it ran for 13 episodes. I didn't watch all 13, and there was previously a television drama that adapted the series back in 2011.
Right.
So I'm guessing, and there's 9 volumes of the manga, and it's been running since 2011 in Young Champion magazine. And like I said, I had never read the manga, but I was just really disappointed that
it just wasn't like it was, at least for me, it wasn't like the type of stories that I thought that I like. You know, like I kind of like sometimes like those like high school development stories where like you almost like a coming of age. You know, you get to like see like the rivalry with the other like medic person, or like there's sort of like that weird like interpersonal relationships that happen in like a school or college setting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like with this one, there really just wasn't that. Like it sort of like made you think that something like that was gonna happen, and then it didn't.
Which is too bad, because I think it would have been a lot stronger if it had taken that route, as opposed to this. Basically, this is just Blackjack light. I mean,
On
it almost seems
levels.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like it's for people who aren't familiar with the old series, and it's just trying to get them into reading it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, so starting from episode 1, right away the show.
Well, do we do the? Have we done spoilers? Do we do like a spoiler thing?
Oh yeah, spoiler alert. What would be the spoilers for? Like, could you spoil this show?
I don't know, man. I don't think that anything.
Spoiler: all of his surgeries go well.
That's fair. All right. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's hard for me to like care because it's like nothing's interesting. So it's like well, I don't understand what I'm spoiling. If someone said, I'm like, I don't understand why they would care.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to spoil. I mean, if there was an actual reoccurring story, maybe, but this is just. I mean, the original Blackjack series was really just a collection of one-shots, but it worked because the one-shots were really interesting, you know, and he was for real Blackjack, so he was awesome. Whereas I just didn't believe that he was just starting. He was in med school,
right?
But yeah, so I guess spoiler alert, if you like watching a animated medical drama, feel free to recommend one to us, because this is not it.
Yeah.
Just very simply, if you want something that is at all close to what I imagine med students go through, this is not the show that's representative of that, and is more representative, I think, what people think being a doctor is like, maybe. But even that's pretty fantastic. So I don't know. This and another thing that I was disappointed by too, and if someone's read the manga, they can inform us if this was the case in the comic. But they don't actually show you any of the surgeries. Everything is, you know, you never see him actually operating on anybody. We get these very
artsy. Like a string, whatever, moving through space, and that's when he's sewing something up. And
yeah, but we never actually see, and we see some of the instruments, like him picking them up or putting them down, but we never actually see him surgerizing on people.
Surgerizing,
which is really unfortunate, because one interesting thing about Osamu Tezuka is he actually got his medical degree. So he was a doctor, and he decided rather than being a doctor, he was going to do comic books. So what was interesting about Blackjack was that he had a background in medicine. So a lot of the stories were fantastical and you know, obviously not exactly realistic all the time. But what was cool was he really drew what was going on in the surgery. So there's a lot of I don't know about gross, but at least graphic images in the original series that show what exactly he's doing. What is he dealing with? Like, what was the injury? What are the organs that he's working on? And a lot of that art was very detailed, which I guess was from his Tezuka's background in medicine. But so that was a real standout point for me when I read the original Tezuka series, and that was something that again, I was really disappointed that perhaps in the manga version of Young Blackjack that's present, but man, the anime essentially like just ignores the most interesting
But that
part of his
probably
work.
has to do with the like graphic or like just censorship, right? Like that probably has to do with some sort of like censorship level. I remember when Terraformers or whatever was out, pretty much there would be scenes when the whole screen would be like black just because of like the violence, you know. And I mean,
Yeah.
when doing surgery, I guess you could say that you could have just as much violence as like ripping someone's head off or whatever, you know. And so I would assume that it has something to do with those. I don't know though, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and I think what you could argue is that with Terraformars and a lot of those shows, they know that on Blu-ray it's going to be uncensored, so the shot is filmed as if you can see what's going on, but of course, like you're saying, there's like it's either just dark or there's tasteful mist or something
right,
light,
if it's
something like
sexual.
that. So yeah, so the director Kase, she might have just figured that it's visually, less bothersome, maybe if there's not some like weird part of the screen you can't see, and rather than have a weird, application of censorship, she just decided to not show anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I was just really, that's just, and I just don't know enough about the original manga to say if that was something that was totally left out or not. But yeah, I mean, I guess, actually, I hope that's the case.
Right.
Because if it's the case that it was like this in the manga, that's like really, at that point, I don't even know why it got adapted.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Well, I mean, like, and you could also say I don't know why they haven't made the anime Blade the Immortal, which is what we're keep on.
They made an anime of Blade of the Immortal?
I don't know, I blacked out. But anyway, on to episode 1.
Yeah, on to episode 1. And I think
I just remember it all came back to me with episode 1. Do you remember when they were like crossing the like there was like a guy, it was the train crashed into them, and then there was a guy in a car, right? And then there was a kid on a bike who was barely even taller than the freaking guardrail, right?
Yeah.
And then the train hit them, and then the kid went to have surgery, but the kid could have just fucking walked off. He was on his bike, like.
Yeah, he could have ran away from the bike. Yeah,
he could have actually just biked out.
Yeah.
Like it didn't even need he could have been like, this is like, this bike is like way more important than I'll just leave.
Maybe it's like cycling from Pokemon. He got like stuck in a little like corner where he couldn't like revert, like turn around or something like that.
No, I think you can always turn around in Pokemon.
Really? You can't?
So.
Oh. Well, there's another joke I fucked up. So, well, I guess it's not that.
I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Fuck, man.
I can't remember. I have.
Maybe you're the real Pokemon master. But
yeah, well, he could have. Yeah, he could have done something. What he was like on the gravel, and what was it? There were a lot of cars. Nobody in the cars got out, even though the train was like kind of far away. That scene just didn't. I didn't believe that.
Right.
Scene.
So
that just,
and it's really hard to get into something when like from the very get go, you think that like what's happening is bullshit.
Yeah. It's and then also if he had gotten dragged under the train, his limbs would have gotten crushed off, right? So
did they say he got dragged on the train? Was that?
I think so. I think they said he got dragged under the train, and of course, a couple of the doctors say they'll just have to amputate and all that. But when Blackjack refuses, it says, no, I don't want to become a doctor without the creativity of like putting people to act together or something like that, or thinking creatively.
When it went in reference to like his own scars or whatever. I think.
Yeah, and in his case, he got blown up by a mine. I think. I think that's what happened.
Did they even say that in the?
Not in this. That's
my impression of the anime is just like cut himself up and put himself back together for funsies. Like,
oh shit, that story just changed. There's a twisted backstory.
I mean, well, they didn't explain it, but he was just like, I want the creativity of putting things back together, and it's like, here's my body. It's like, then are you
Yeah.
operating on yourself? Like when you have to reattach your own arm, are you just doing that one-handed? I don't know, man.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it, since they didn't really, you know, actually explain that at all.
But I guess if they have the magical black screen with like the white with the string thing going through it, it doesn't really matter. It's
Yeah,
like,
and there's enough
now the
sparkle.
arm's back. It's like, how'd you do that? I don't even know.
Yeah, and there's enough sparkles and like prickly ivy or whatever around
Like
him that we just.
like the Jesus thorn crown.
Yeah, the
Yes.
the thorn crown was a very strange choice, but yeah, I just feel like the kid's limbs would have been there would have been no way to reattach them because you would have had to remove the section above up to the point where it had been crushed off. I don't know. It just so he'd be like his limbs would be shorter than they. But I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Right.
That
I
whole
also never been
scenario.
underneath the train, so honestly.
There's that too. Yeah. Hang on a second. I'm gonna go try this theory out.
Right.
And see if,
BRB.
see if it, I was like, actually, I'm wrong. They could attach it, but then of course this is medicine in the 70s, right, or 60s.
See, I don't even know if they even mentioned that.
Yeah, 68.
So.
Yeah, 68. So there's no way to replicate that, I guess. Anyway, I just didn't believe that scenario, just like you. But I was going to say one interesting thing about this show that I did like was how at the beginning of each episode you're given a little bit of the political background of what's going on. I don't know how successfully the show incorporates the politics, but I did think it was interesting that they were even discussing what was going on back then. I'm not too familiar with why there were medical student protests. I mean, I guess what they were asking for higher wages, right, for interns.
I don't really remember, but like.
But it was interesting because the show does talk about Vietnam, and actually a later episode that I watched.
The war.
Yeah, even talks about Martin Luther King and the whole situation in America. So it was just interesting.
Man, fuck.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Yeah, yeah, spoilers. But it was interesting how I did think that was one positive aspect of the show was that they even discussed those things. It's just not something in anime you see very often.
That's true, but like my gripe with that though is that it didn't like there were so many things that like pieces of the anime, but I didn't feel like they actually went together. Like they were talking about the politics, but I didn't really feel like the politics like really impacted what was going on, impacted the main character, or had any sort of real relevance.
Yeah, I agree with that. They didn't really tie in why it was important.
I mean, I would even say from episode to episode, it didn't even really seem to like matter. I think even like he had like the doctor friend that was afraid of blood, and then like in another episode he's like, and I happen to have like a heroin addiction or something like that. And it's like
that's in the first episode, yeah.
Oh, is it both? Is the addiction as well? I thought they might have been in separate episodes.
Yeah,
but
no, it's actually same episode, number one, and he drops both pretty quick.
yeah,
So,
but
which I want to know what kind of rehab program he checked himself into. Maybe it was the almost getting his organs stolen in episode 2.
right.
3. Yeah.
Well, but which it's like I'm in here because I owe this amount of money. I'll perform this surgery if I get this exact amount of money that clears my debt. It's like I had no idea like why I owed that money in the first place in episode 2. I had no idea like what it all like really like accomplished. Like there's no like feeling. There's no real connection from like what is happening in that episode to anything else. You know?
No, I mean it would have been interesting if they had thrown in a line of like he needed the money because of his drug addiction he had kind of dug himself into a hole, but there wasn't even acknowledgement of that. There was just he's just there, but we're not quite in episode 2 yet, right. I guess. So
yeah, so he does the surgery and is successful. I think we've pretty much cleared that up for every episode.
What I thought was cool though is I liked how he's ignoring at the beginning of episode 1. He's ignoring the protests by the other medical students, and he's just he's practicing surgery right. on a park bench, and he's just sort of pretending. I thought that was kind of fun.
Does he like say like at the end like a success or like mission complete at the end of like every surgery or something like that?
Does he?
I feel like he might. I don't know.
He at least said it in one. I know he
Like,
Yeah.
because I remember it was like he couldn't uh like talk to someone until it's like Operation Complete or something.
Yeah, yeah, that could be. What I thought was funny though is these parents who are so concerned about their kid when the doctor at the actual nice hospital says we're not going to operate on him, we'll have to amputate, we can't reattach, and then this fucking medical student is like, hey, let me take your kid to this drug addicted doctor's little place, which doesn't have any of the materials we actually need,
Right.
and I'll reattach his limbs for you. How about that? And they're like, great. That sounds good. That sounds legit.
Right. Well, because
would
they
do
didn't
that?
they didn't want him to they didn't want to have a child that was crippled, which is kind of
Yeah.
like fucked up, man. Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up by itself.
This whole anime, it does try to illuminate how people are fucked up, but it's
Unless you're
also
hot.
but it does it in like it's such a black and white sort of way too, though, right? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, because Blackjack is, but he just looks sexy, even though he went through something horrible. You know what I mean?
right.
Because another note I have here is I think it's funny when they get to the other hospital and he's prepping for surgery and he like strips down and he's fucking ripped, you know. And the intern lady is like, damn.
But that's also show off the scars for plot relevance.
Yeah, to show off that he and it ties in with his whole the doctor who operated on me had the imagination to be able to put me back together or whatever.
Yeah.
And the girl's like, oh yeah, okay. That I just and then what happens is if they so here they needed that synthetic graft for the vein, but they didn't have it because they were at this fucking backwater doctor's place. And it's just, I don't know. I was like, there wasn't a room you could go in the big hospital. I mean, I guess because there were so many injured, it was really booked. But anyway, I just didn't believe the scenario, and I think that's a major mark against this series. If you don't believe the actual scenario that is going on in the first episode,
I mean, I'm more likely to I believe fucking there's Saiyans flying around blowing up planets and shit. More so than I believe, I mean, because here's the thing is, with anime, you can go into, a really, fantastical worlds with a lot of, crazy, magical sort of stuff that's going on. But usually those worlds develop a set of their own rules that they keep to. And when an anime doesn't keep to its own, reality within that anime, I think that's when it really when you have these sort of complaints.
Yeah, it just doesn't stick to its own,
Yeah, and this is trying to talk about how everything is super real, but then everything is not really.
Yeah. And I think that's where the intro videos about the politics works against it, because it's this takes place in the real world, and then obviously it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, which I think is a balance that Tezuka struck a lot more organically in his works, because he has these very cartoonish characters running around in worlds that you believe in, because the writing is so good,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So episode 1, I did kind of like how after the surgery his hands were shaking and he was actually really nervous about the whole thing.
Right. After the perfect surgery that he performed.
Yeah, for his first fucking surgery, I thought that went pretty good. And so another note, the voice actor for the narrator, who talks about how and this was Blackjack wouldn't know it yet, but this is the first step on his journey into blah blah blah. That's actually the voice actor for Blackjack in the normal anime series.
Oh.
Where he's older. So just a quick point. And also, I think it's the same voice actor who does Skull Knight in the Berserk movie.
Oh.
Yeah. The more you know, the more you know.
About Berserk. the more you can tie it in to everything else that you watch.
Exactly, yeah.
Or
I should have found something connecting this to Arslan, but
that's true.
Disappointed. I feel I failed with that.
Next episode, we'll be sure to get back on track with that.
Yeah, and also I thought the opening theme for this show is hilarious. the song, I think the chorus is "I'm just feeling alive." The lyrics, I felt like the whole song was really like, I don't think it fit very well with the show.
Well, I mean, maybe that was just like illuminate the whole theme that nothing fits well together. Like in the show, in life, maybe in surgery, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. I just checked. The song is actually called "I Am Just Feeling Alive." Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, and then there's also I don't know how. Did we ever find out how that shot of him breaking out of handcuffs in the opening actually was that ever in any of the episodes we watched?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, so in episode 2, we discover that Yabu-san, who is the doctor in episode 1, who is addicted to drugs and afraid of blood, he's actually pretty ripped too. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
He's like kind of a dweeby looking dude, and then they're all shirtless in episode 2
because my shirt is off. I look like I started an episode of Free.
I know, for real. Yeah, I was like, do you coach swimming when you're not?
Do you lift? Well, yeah, it's like you're afraid of blood, but you pump that up, don't you?
Yeah, and so they've been captured by this guy who's gonna sell their organs, namely their heart for a heart transplant, which I think the first one was the year before, I think they said, and it was the patient died, so I don't know why they're leaping to it immediately now.
Just a side note with the intro. Do you remember him like dueling the samurai, but he was using a scalpel?
Yeah.
I like we don't need to like discuss that anymore. I just wanted to like make sure
I saw that
happened. That we like everyone knows that happened, but I don't actually want to like talk about it anymore.
Well, in the original comic, he would fight people with his scalpels. He would throw his scalpels at people.
Okay.
And they would like stab people.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. I think that's what they were alluding to, but it does look pretty hilarious in the opening.
Yeah, a fucking samurai sword though. Yo, dog. Like an unarmed peasant. Like I okay, that's fine. Like someone who can't defend themselves, I understand, because you're using like it was a scalpel versus like a butcher cleaver, like or you know, like just like a different like a kitchen utensil that would be.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's ripped.
Everyone's ripped. All the dudes are ripped, at least. And in this episode, I also made a note that it really hit home that the music in this show is really crappy. Like a lot of anime music, it's fine if it blends in to the background or something. Right. But this just, especially in this episode, I felt like it was really jarring. And I thought the religious group who was trying to save their leader, I thought they were pretty fun. I like them. They were pretty cool. How they were like straight up going to kill everybody if the surgery didn't go through.
Right.
That I thought was pretty sweet. Which I think is why Dr. Joker, or whatever his name was, never showed up. Was just because he was like, yeah, these people will probably just kill me.
I thought it was cool, like, you know, Dr. Joker, Black Jack, some weird card. It's like they're all like sort of card themed esque or whatever.
Yeah, which would have been interesting if we ever saw Dr. Joker.
Yeah.
But I don't think we do. So. Yeah, I mean, that would have been cool. You know, maybe they're at the same medical school or something, right. But no, they're not.
Or a secret underground society that only plays cards and surgery.
I think you just made up a whole new series.
Dude, yeah, started Young Blackjack season 2. Figured it out. You're gonna think that it's all about the secret society, and then it's gonna be something completely different. Just like how with this, you think it's gonna have to do with their school stuff.
Yeah, and it's actually about him developing an entire like fighting style just with medical equipment.
Yeah.
Actually, medical equipment does look really scary. So
that's true. So does like dentist stuff.
Oh, dentist stuff is fucking horrifying, especially when they like lay it out for you to see before you sit in the chair.
Right.
That's always creeped me out.
And then like you got bleeding everywhere because you don't floss your teeth enough and. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. While you like can taste the blood spurting in your mouth, they're like, you should really, how often do you floss?
It's like, this is terrible.
Because you can't really answer, but they can just like passive aggressively chastise you. You know?
You know, like those scenes in anime when they clench their teeth really hard and blood sort of comes.
Oh yeah.
They probably all just have like gingivitis.
Or it makes like creaking sounds.
Right. Well, the blood specifically is like, homie's got gingivitis. That's what's going on. That's why they floss their teeth. So you don't.
Yeah, you know their breath smells too.
I bet.
And that's it's like, oh, geez, if you're bleeding just from clenching your teeth.
So yeah, anything else you can talk about in episode 2?
Yeah, actually, because I'm a sucker, I totally fell for him reconstructing the dude's face. When they revealed that, spoiler, by the way, that's how he saves the guy.
Right.
He makes his face look like the leader of the religious group who actually died of a cardiac arrest. So he never did the heart transplant, which I actually liked that he didn't do this ridiculously hard surgery as his second surgery.
He just redid someone's face perfectly. Okay.
Without any... and also, wouldn't the group think it was weird that the guy like had no scars on his chest, but his whole face was fucked up for like a month?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, that's weird. I guess he went through the head.
God, you're so
Blackjack's
right.
just like,
you're so right.
Yeah, Blackjack's just like, that's how good I am. It was a dental surgery to change this guy's heart out.
Right.
Yep.
You just went through the throat. That's the best way to get the heart.
Yeah. So that I actually fell for that. I was like, oh, okay, that's, I guess, sort of interesting. But that takes us to episode 3, which is the first of, like 4, 5 episodes that are
like
kind of
ones or whatever.
Well, actually, this one is about he's got the intern girl over at his apartment, and he doesn't give her dinner, and she's like checking out all the fish that he keeps that he operates on.
Right.
Which I thought is a little weird. You're not really supposed to surgerize your pets. Pretty sure.
Was he also like doing it with like food and stuff too?
Yeah, he was doing it with like a pork leg or something like that. Which she's like, oh, that's so interesting. I don't know about you, but if I was a chick and I was in a guy's apartment and there's like nothing there except animals that have been operated on by that dude.
Right. It's sort of like it puts the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be a little concerned. That's and he doesn't even give you dinner because you know how you're not supposed to eat before medical stuff, for like 8 hours or something like that. That was my first thought. I was like, ooh, this chick should be like running the fuck out of this apartment because it's like you won't feed her. He's just like, why don't you hang out though, but don't eat or drink for the next 6 hours.
Right.
She's like, why? He's like, oh, no reason.
Right, no reason.
It turns out his neighbor is helping people from an American base, go
AWOL or whatever.
Go AWOL, yeah. So, what were the guys' names? All the American names in the show are hilarious. They're all like Bruce and
Joe, America, and Bald Eagle.
They also naturally speak perfect Japanese, which I know there's a lot of American shows that people from even other planets speak perfect English, but I gotta rip on this a little bit. How especially the American words they'd say would be like boy and stuff like that.
Right.
It's kind of funny. And so the guy has like this. He had a head injury. Was that what it was?
Yeah, some sort of like weird. Yeah. Something like that.
So he just gets into another incident where he's, gonna fuck everything over for himself, getting his medical license.
You can't practice. You'll lose your license.
He just takes a portion of the dude's skull out, right?
Yeah. Easy peasy.
Yeah, and I thought that would be really scary if you woke up and you had like a whole piece of your head missing. And your buddy is like, oh my god, you almost died.
Yeah.
You just wake up in the apartment you passed out in and there's like just part of your head missing. It's like, oh yeah, that was pretty horrifying. I also thought it was interesting his interaction with the protester chick, who it was never really clear what her relationship was with his neighbor, like were they boyfriend or girlfriend or something like that, right. But she was a bitch, and her character, like, I hated her, and I thought his arguments with her was pretty interesting.
It's like the one thing they did illustrate that I thought was cool in this episode was how people can get really stuck in their ideals, and like what they think is right or wrong, and they could even like push their morals aside because of their ideals. Like she's okay with letting this person die before outing whatever their activist thing is or something like that.
Yeah. She was so set on being right. And also she obviously enjoyed having that over other people. It's like, oh yeah, well my struggle is the best.
Right.
Like fuck whatever you're going through, and you're trying to get a medical degree or whatever. So I thought that was interesting. And then of course the guy turns out to be an undercover CIA agent, and that comes back later.
Another thing that I don't care about though.
Well, yeah,
it does come back later then.
I think it does come back later. I think in like episode 8 or something. I forget how, but I do remember like watching it and being like, "Oh, that came back." Okay,
the one and only thing.
Yeah. So, and then after this, episode 4, I feel like is when the show is like really starting to fucking go off the rails. So. Do you want to set this story up?
Starts to go off the rails.
Well, I mean, it was already off the rails, but now this goes from running over kids to this train is just wiping out whole towns by this point.
I mean, well, like, let's set this up. It's what like the crazy doctor friend wants to go to Vietnam. He wants to go to war to like harden himself and become like a better doctor and get used to seeing blood and stuff.
Yabu-san? You mean Yabu-san?
Oh, that's the guy's name?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, yeah, Yabu-san. And, I don't know. It's just bad. I can't, I don't know, like what?
Well,
I just don't.
What's really funny about it is Blackjack is watching the news, and I guess his friend had left sometime before this episode and had gotten over his fear of blood and his drug addiction, which is amazing in 3 episodes. I think that's arguably, I think Yabu-san is up for like the most character changes in anime in 3 episodes I've ever seen. Because, I mean, he just totally does a complete role reversal. And the hospital he goes to work in Vietnam, which is also weird that he would just jump immediately to Vietnam, and his reasoning is that, like, in Japan I was just running away, but here there's real people to help. And it was like, wow. Yeah, but there's kids being, like, hit by trains and stuff in Japan. I mean, that seems pretty... Yeah. Anyway, without getting into that. And so the building he's in gets blown up by Viet Cong, and Blackjack's like, oh, fuck, I've got to get there. Which is, of course, the natural reaction that someone in med school would have. There's no tests or anything coming up.
Right, right. It's not like... He doesn't... Like, fucking probably people in med school at that time didn't have time to, like, look at the news to even see things that were blown up, like, because they're too busy studying.
Yeah, and because, back before the age of email, the natural reaction for anybody seeing something bad in a town that they know they have a friend in or something like that is to go to that place.
Right.
To find out what happened.
Hey man, have you seen this Japanese guy? He used to have a heroin addiction, but he doesn't anymore. He used to be afraid of blood, but now he's fucking fine with it. Have you seen him? It's like,
he's somewhere here. So Blackjack ends up going to Vietnam, and he obviously must have hit it off really well with the intern lady, because now she's stuck taking care of his pets, which I felt a little bad for her for. Like, she's an intern. She's actually technically higher up in rank than he is.
Right.
And the most development she's gotten is to drop a lot of papers and feed fish. So that's a little unfortunate. But, and also I thought it was weird. She ate fish food. She was like feeding the fish, and then she like started eating what she was feeding.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, is she eating fish food, or is she like feeding fish crackers? Like, I don't really understand.
Human food?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, God, this one I just felt like it was like, I just, again, didn't believe. So he meets a reporter. The reporter is like, "Yeah, I know some people who are going into the forest, the jungle. Why don't you come with us?" Naturally, they got caught up in a firefight. Was it Smith or like Steve? Somebody, one of those two gets shot.
America.
Yeah. And he operates on the dude in the middle of this firefight, and of course, all the bullets fly right by
But
him.
he can keep all of his focus and.
Although his pretty bag got shot. That was too bad. All of his little utensils got messed up. So they end up being captured, and that leads us into episode 5.
Right.
I actually thought the reporter was like a spy or like up to something because he was like too cool with everything. You know?
I mean, they even had like that, like I thought they had like the like heh 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 whatever, like cutaway, you know?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like,
And
yeah,
like all
I'll
those
help
people,
you. Heh heh heh. It's like, oh wow,
yeah, and all those people in the street got shot,
yeah,
and he was like, "Yep, that's just what happens here." He's like, "Okay."
right.
So they get captured, and now we're in episode 5, which I thought was funny because they get tortured in episode 5, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that was fun, and we learn about how maggots can help wounds because they actually disinfect the wound because they clean out the infected tissue.
Yeah, which is true. I'm pretty sure it's true.
That was-
I saw it
yeah,
in
isn't that
Gladiator, so
Oh, right, that was in Gladiator. I was thinking to myself, like, where have I seen this? I was like, I felt like a badass because I was like, yeah, that's for real. So it was Gladiator. That's what I was thinking of, right?
yep,
All right. Well, it must be real if it was in that movie.
right.
Yeah. So that's an obvious thing. So kids, if your friend gets a scratch, maggots,
Done.
definitely. Don't put a Band-Aid on it. Actually, put a Band-Aid on top of the maggot,
Oh god, that's so gross.
just to make sure. So they get tortured, which was fun. And I was laughing to myself in this episode because I guess that intern's gonna be watching the fish for a while.
Wasn't that like they asked Blackjack or something, like if he's American, he says no, and then they just like cut his clothes off? Wasn't it like a weird scene like that where like
Yeah, he was naked and they were like hitting him and like stretching him with like the wooden planks.
yeah,
Yeah, wasn't that a thing?
I don't know. I just don't care. I just don't care about like
There's a lot of close-up shots of his pretty face, like, you know, crying out in pain.
oh, I'm in pain. Flex pose.
Flex.
Check out my perfect tan and his awesome scars.
And how delicately the sweat is like drawn on his body, you know? It's like this glistening, you know. I was like, all right, you look good for being in the jungle for how long?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that. Then they escape because the translator, her brother or something, is one of the Viet Cong, and so he releases her after torturing her. Because they're called out. I thought it was weird how all of the people who captured them were going off on a mission and just like left them,
Right.
like just completely. Like there wasn't even like an
we've
escape
tortured.
plan.
There's no way they'll want to leave.
Yeah, they didn't even chase them down. You know, it's like, oh shit, we had all these people captured, including an American commander. Surely they're not. Anyway, that was funny. And then they pass out in the jungle after drinking water from bamboo and shit. And then they wake up, and it's Yabu-san. And Yabu-san and Blackjack have a very strange, intimate moment after he wakes up on the hospital bed. That I thought was a little strange. They like looked at each other for a little too long, you know.
Right.
But I guess Blackjack was just so impressed with how ripped Yabu-san was in episode 2 that.
Hey.
Anyway, yeah. And then we have the doctor who jumps from the helicopter.
Yeah, the rival doctor that also has white hair and is perfectly ripped.
Yeah, he's like, "Where's my patient? I can't wait to see him."
Right. Yahoo!
Yeah, so that was, of course, there's the argument of he's my patient. No, he's mine.
Right.
Yeah, and then at the end, rival doctor is impressed with Blackjack's motivation and skills. So they share a drink together in the jungle.
Yeah, that was another weird scene. And they had with the drinking, and then there's the little bead of liquid runs down
Yeah, like
their chin
the
on their chest. And
the rival doctor is watching like the water drip out of Blackjack's mouth, and like the look that the rival doctor has on his face is like, yeah, that ass don't stop. It's like, okay, like that seems a little not appropriate for this scene, but that's how it goes for this show. And actually, the rival doctor ends up being his main rival in the original Blackjack series. Which I thought was a bit of a stretch because I almost felt like that was just kind of shoehorned in for no reason. Because I felt like he'd be an interesting character without having that happen. But a quick little, that's all the episodes we were going to watch for the podcast. But what I thought was funny was the guy who gets shot in the neck that Blackjack saves, like Steve or whatever. Mm-hmm. He recovers, and when he wakes up, he goes crazy, I think from like PTSD or something like that. And he goes running out into a field, and he gets blown up by a mine.
Nice.
Yeah, and a scene that I thought you'd enjoy is his commander goes crazy after watching his buddy get blown up by a mine, and puts all of his parts in a backpack, and like says they're going to go back to America and eat hot dogs and burgers and shit and drink beer. And so he's carrying like his dead buddy like in a backpack.
Yeah, I just don't understand this fucking anime.
Yeah, I thought that was like pretty intense for a show that was like kind of adverse to showing anything like that before,
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure you knew about that because that's obviously a life-changing piece of information. But yeah, that was 5 episodes.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten the impression already, I don't think either of us really like this show.
Which is too bad because I really wanted to like the show.
I really wanted to like it too.
Yeah, and at the beginning, I think if it had actually been about him in med school learning and like the characters he meets and stuff like that, I think it could have been a great series. There's a lot of room for interesting stories. But they didn't do that.
Yeah, and there's like, I mean, I really didn't feel like any of the characters were developed. I don't even think the main character was like well developed or interesting.
Well, no, it was him from the main series, except you were told he was younger.
Yeah.
So he had no development. He didn't even get anything because it's just him.
Yeah.
As he is when he's older, except he's in a white coat instead of his typical black outfit. So it was disappointing. I can't really say I'd recommend this to anybody. I would just say read the original comic by Osamu Tezuka, which I think is available. Vertical published the entire series in English in America, and I think the print volumes are currently out of print, but I think you can buy it for the Kindle. So I think there's 17 books. It's a long series, but it's worth reading. And then there's an earlier anime that I think is directed by Osamu Dezaki. I'm going to have to check to make sure I remembered that name correctly. But it's a series of OVAs. And I still think that's like the go-to Blackjack anime adaptation. Because it's got because they're OVAs, the animation is really well done. The lighting is very distinct, and it just looks really cool, and it's very well directed and all that. So I think it's Osamu Dezaki who directed that. I think there's 10 episodes or so. So I'd just say go ahead, watch that. Totally forget about this series, ignore it. It's nice to see that Tezuka's works are getting attention and new interpretations, but this is one that I think flunks out of school.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Oh. So we've often talked about for the next anime that we're gonna do to be, or the eventually we're gonna finish Gangsta, but it's to the point that we're sort of like have so much stuff to catch up. We don't really want to do like full seasons. We want to just keep on like doing these sort of like introduction stuffs. So the next anime that we're gonna do is going to be Lupin the Third Part 4.
Yeah, and we're going to be watching that on Crunchyroll, and likewise, Young Blackjack is available to watch on Crunchyroll as well.
Yeah, but wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, why would you watch it on Crunchyroll? I don't
When
know.
you could
but
watch
there's
anything else.
Lupin the Third. Yeah. So tune in next time for Lupin the Third. I think it's called Lupin the Third Part 4 on Crunchyroll. I think they also have the first 13 episodes because it started airing over the summer and Crunchyroll just got it. So, So do you have any last rips to make on Young Blackjack?
No, I just wanted it to be over.
You just want this to be over.
Right. But it's good to be back.
It is great to be back, and we'll have our next episode out very, very soon because we're recording it in about, 5 hours here? Are we? Well, I'm going to say that, and the next episode will be out in 3 years.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. All right.
All right.
Rock on. Take
Later.
care.